Ahoy, quality management people, and welcome to this episode of our quality solutions series. That's the first challenge of the day is spitting that out, accelerating your quality journey. And thank you so much for joining us. In the last session, we covered essential information for first-time QMS software buyers and the Ignite phase of ETQ's quality journey framework. The Ignite phase lays that groundwork of your QMS, including streamlined processes for document control, training, audits, and corrective action management. This webinar is going to cover the next step in the quality journey and look at the accelerate phase. So the accelerate phase builds upon those streamlined fundamental quality processes and connects them with the workflows of other teams and enterprise systems. And as always, all registrants will receive a link to the recording. And be sure to use that GoToWebinar panel to ask any questions you have or share your thoughts during the presentation. And we'll have time at the end for Q&A. I am Angela Anderson, Product Marketing Manager with ETQ, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tom Barlow, one of ETQ's in-house quality experts and strategic solution engineers. Howdy, Tom. How are you today?
Hello, Angela. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Ready to accelerate our quality journey today.
Looking forward to it, and thanks for everyone for joining us.
All right, so just a little intro to ETQ before we really dig in here. For over 30 years, ETQ has empowered quality champions to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. Full disclosure, we offer a flexible, scalable, easy to use eQMS solution that's purpose-built to connect quality processes to all areas of your organization, and you're going to see a lot of that today. We have industry knowledge and expertise across many industries, which is reflected in our diverse customer base of over 600 customers, representing discrete and process manufacturing, food and bev, consumer goods, pharma, med device, electronics, services, and more. We aim to be a trusted advisor to our customers, helping guide you along your quality journey from making that initial business case to project planning to onboarding and beyond. Also, we are a part of Hexagon, a global leader in sensor software and autonomous manufacturing solutions. Oh, so folks, it's still a jungle out there. Those headlines keep reminding us every day. The challenges of maintaining product quality are greater than ever with rising costs, natural disasters, evolving supply chain dynamics, and shifting consumer demand. And those headlines may be daunting, but your secret weapon to overcome these challenges is a focus on quality. And we believe that you can mitigate all kinds of risks through the practice of closed loop quality management, going beyond compliance to a state of proactive continuous improvement that lifts your organization above the rest and results in competitive advantage. And one key ingredient to that, to getting there, is having the right tools in place. And I might be a little biased, but purpose-built QMS technology is critical to harmonizing those global processes and automating those closed-loop workflows. So that's an easy, perhaps ambitious thing to say. You know, how do you harmonize global processes and automate those workflows? The short answer is one step at a time. It's a complex endeavor, there's no denying that. It can take a lot of planning, preparation, change management, and the only way to effectively manage all that complexity in the real world is through a digital solution. And luckily we've got, of course, ETQ Reliance platform that helps you get started with those essential processes and then building on that foundation over time. Now the lines between these phases is to some degree notional. Your exact journey is unique and driven by your business needs. So let's take a closer look real quick. So in the Ignite phase, as we kind of mentioned a moment ago, so you're building on that strong foundation of core QMS elements, and the best practice there is to try and adopt ETQ's we like to call them battle-tested, out-of-the-box processes to help speed your onboarding and gain some early wins. In the accelerate phase, which we're diving into today, the best practice there is to take that phased approach, connect more workflows across teams and systems. In the expand phase, which we'll talk about in our next session, look at widening that quality net to give suppliers an active role in your quality processes, and perhaps moving quality inputs upstream into new product development efforts. In the transform phase, those seeds of the quality culture that you've planted all along the way will hopefully have grown into a new strategic approach to managing all of those challenges and risks we saw earlier in those headlines. So looking at the journey holistically, you could really see how your QMS kind of becomes a hub for connecting systems all across your organization and sets you up to create that competitive advantage. And because the business landscape is always shifting and changing, the cycle of this quality journey never ends, for better or worse. Okay, so back to this notion of one step at a time. So Tom, I'm going to turn the spotlight over to you to show us more about ETQ Reliance and how we can move from that ignite phase into the accelerate phase and start thinking about those connections between teams and systems.
Excellent.
All right, so we're gonna do our little change-a-roo move here.
Wow. Okay. I say wow as if I'm surprised, but I guess this is one of our smoother transitions.
It's no surprise, we got this.
Okay. So let's talk about how we might propose that you accelerate your quality journey. The nice thing about ETQ Reliance is that it's a platform system, platform-based. We have 42 pre-configured applications that we built based on industry best practices over our past 30 years of experience, hosted on one agile platform that's also hosted in the cloud, so it's scalable, secure, and can grow with your organization. You might remember from our last discussion that our system is packaged as the core set of applications on top of the platform. So that's where you would start your quality journey, as we discussed last time. Those are the core processes: document control, training, etc. And we'll see a diagram of this in a few minutes. What you can then do is you can start to accelerate by adding additional things. So what we're proposing, which would be a logical next step, would be the processes around what we call the non-conformance handling application set, as well as integrating with your external systems that you might have where you have other information. The processes that we provide as part of our non-conformance handling application set are non-conformance reporting, deviation, customer feedback, and RMA, or return material authorization, as well as the integration APIs that would allow you to synchronize information with your external systems. Before we get into that, I would like to discuss the 6 platform genetics, the 6 core capabilities that are infused across all of our applications that really let you leverage the power of the platform. The first one was briefly discussed before, which is the configurability or adaptability of the platform. We use our own configuration tool called the ETQ Designer. It's a drag and drop tool to pre-configure the out-of-the-box applications that we then package for our customers. So therefore, you have a great starting point using best practices to get started. However, we understand that no two businesses are alike, and you may have needs that are different, whether it's different from the out-of-the-box, or even if you have a growing organization, you might have different business units that even have individual needs that need to be met. The system can be configured without programming. It's not a customization. You're not changing the core product. What you're doing is you're using that very powerful drag and drop designer tool to either modify the out-of-the-box applications that we pre-configure, but the system is so configurable that you can even use it as a configuration platform to build your own applications on top of the platform. They would look and feel just like every other application, very familiar, very easy to use, and they would all still share the same 6 genetics, as well as all the other capabilities that are available on the platform. So that essentially allows our system to become a single source of the truth for business process automation. So adaptability is the first one, which allows you to configure it as needed. The other one is connectivity. Connectivity is the relationships between processes. So it's one thing to have corrective actions and document control and audits and change management and other processes that are individually workflow-based applications on the platform, but it takes it to a whole nother level when you talk about the relationships between those processes. And we have this capability called connectivity that allows you to trigger one process from another, inheriting information from one record to another to make it extremely easy to go forward quickly without having to re-enter information. And we also, the connectivity capability also provides hyperlinking back and forth between the related records. So you'll see some examples of this as we discuss this today, but connectivity is really the power of the relationships between processes, and extending that to the next level, which is also the accelerate step of the process that we're discussing, the quality journey, is the ability to integrate with external systems. So you will always have other information in other places, whether it's HR systems that have a list of people, someone's managing that list as people come and go and move to new roles in the organization. ERP systems have suppliers, customers, products, etc. So why not leverage that information by integrating with it? So that's really what the strategy is. Our system has an open integration capability to integrate with virtually any other system. So that's the other capability that's available for any application on our platform. Contextual awareness has to do with the structure of your organization. So you might have a hierarchy that defines different levels, different business units, different physical locations around the world. It involves the ability to have multiple languages as well, the ability to have people log in from a specific place, and then the system can dynamically filter to only show them the information that they need. So if you think about having an organization, whether it's small or large, with different business units or different locations, you don't necessarily have to have people share each other's information. So contextual awareness allows you to filter so people can only see the things that they need to see. It only assigns things to the right people based on location. There are multiple other capabilities available that make it extremely easy to support a large organization in a single global platform like ours. And the contextual awareness can be extended to what's called external collaboration. This is using the same functionality as contextual awareness, but instead of defining a hierarchy for your internal organization structure, you can include external organizations as additional locations on the hierarchy, such as suppliers and contractors. So that means that you can now extend the use of our system and the automated workflow for any process to your external users. So they would receive assignment emails from our system. So your supplier would be sitting at their desk. They would get an email with a hyperlink to the record. They would have their own little homepage with certain assignments that they have to still complete sitting there. And escalation management, which is our platform level reminder tool, would start to send reminders directly to your suppliers to let them know that they have something that's coming due in a few days or whatever time that you define. So external collaboration really revolutionizes the interaction with your external suppliers, taking it from manual to automating using the standard platform capabilities. And the final one is called anywhere access. This means that you can access the system from anywhere, browsers on devices, including laptops, desktops, and tablets, for example. And we even have a mobility app that's available for Apple and Android devices that you can use to work on with offline or online access. So that's really what we mean when we say anywhere access. The idea is that you can use the system anywhere, anytime. So the one that I wanted to mention, which is the integration, I mentioned that earlier when I talked about the platform. I have one or two slides that I would like to briefly introduce the concept of integration. So our strategy is that our system would become the centralized hub that can then pull information or synchronize with information or even trigger things in other systems. And we don't really have a specific type of system that we can integrate with and the type that we can't. We just use standard integration tools. Anything that uses APIs and web services, we can connect to. And the goal is to extend that automation, the ability to launch a record like a nonconformance and be able to look up a list of parts or products or suppliers or customers or any other record where you have these lookups. It's leveraging that information, or it's triggering records from external systems, which I'll talk about in the story in just a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to bring this up very quickly to introduce the concept of integration, where our system becomes a centralized hub, a single source of the truth to allow you to pull information from different places so that you don't have to replicate manually or duplicate information, which reduces errors, of course, over time. I'm not going to spend very much time on this slide, but this is just showing some of the processes on our platform that could integrate with external systems. These are just some use cases where this has been the case in the past. but there really is no limit to the types of integrations that we can do with external systems. So that's the introduction, and the last thing I want to do before I jump into the demo itself is introduce the concept of accelerate to what we already discussed last time, which is the ignite phase of the journey. So these are the processes we discussed last time, where you maintain your documents. So you establish the core processes around quality. So you have, document and revision control, the archives of old versions of documents tied into training. So as documents get revised or created, you can define who has to be trained, and our system can track self-training. Change management is for changes that are larger in scope than just document control, but could also include the need to change documents. So that's available on the core as part of the platform. Can have very robust workflows to automate very complex changes with many different stakeholders and people involved, and tasks that have to be sent all over the place in the organization, which could incorporate the risk register, which is part of the platform as well. And then, of course, to verify compliance, you have an audits process to verify your compliance with your processes. You can plan, schedule, and conduct audits. When issues are identified, you can launch a corrective action right from that, which has its own very robust workflow for approval, for root cause analysis, for action planning, for delegation of actions. And those actions could involve revisions to documents and or training that has to be done. So this is the core, this is the first step. But the reason I wanted to use this slide in our discussion today is because just to show how easy it would be to get to the next step, which is the accelerate step, because we already have this established, right? Hypothetically, this is already strong, this is already implemented within our system. And then what you can do is you can implement other processes from that nonconformance handling application set. So you can track customer complaints. So we're talking about essentially a couple of additional ways to track issues besides just an audit finding. So an issue could be coming right from a customer. So we have a customer feedback application. From that, you could either launch a nonconformance report using connectivity. So maybe we've already identified the product and the customer that's involved. I can click a button and launch a nonconformance report, which has its own workflow to track the disposition and what you decide to do with the product once it comes back. It could also trigger a return, which is another application that was in this application set. So maybe the customer has to return the product and you have different steps in the workflow for that. But then when we start to talk about integration, this is where you start to superimpose our system into your existing environment. So we have many customers that have CRM tools like Salesforce or Oracle or SAP or others where they track customer issues. So what we're suggesting that you can still continue to use those tools, but instead of replacing it or having a manual launching of a customer complaint record or customer feedback record in EasyQ Reliance, a real-time integration could then trigger this record to happen automatically based on certain conditions that you define. So you still have your customer relationship management folks dealing with the issues and still tracking them in the same exact way they were before, but now you have a connection to the quality folks and the workflow-based processes that are going to take place in response to that particular issue. So in this case, the customer complaint gets tracked, it gets launched into a nonconformance. The other entry into the quality management system might be something like in an ERP system or MES system where you track inspections and you have your processes that are going on, and a real-time failure of the inspection in your other system could automatically launch an NCMR within our system, which then goes through its own process. So far we're just talking about 2 or 3 additional applications if you include the RMA or the material returns application that I just discussed. But in reality, now we have a total of 3 different sources of issues that could be considered quality issues: audit findings, customer feedback, and nonconformance. So we have a relatively new application on our platform called Quality Events that could be the ultimate repository of all issues, regardless of source. So now we have the ability to track the initial issue, and then from there we can click another button using connectivity to launch a quality event. Within this process, you have the ability to do an investigation. You can do another risk assessment if it's needed, if you haven't done it initially with the other records. You can determine if you need to proceed further or not. So the beauty of the quality event, there are really 2 main purposes of this application. One is to have a consistent way to manage your investigation process and your risk assessment process related to any quality event. And then the other is to have a single repository of all issues related to quality. So in this case, if you don't implement this app, you're going to have a different list of customer feedback records from nonconformances and audit findings. They're all stored in 3 separate places within our system. So this would give you a common way to ensure that the investigations are done, that the root causes are done, et cetera. And then this is where you'll notice a couple of changes here, because we can leverage what we already have implemented to simply have now a new source. So the quality event could launch a corrective action, right? Remember, you've already got this, hypothetically, you've already got this process implemented within the core as part of the Ignite step or phase of the process. So now that we're accelerating, we're going to take it to a new level where we can have different multiple sources of issues, and that could be automated through integration that could then lead into the corrective action, which could then still ultimately lead to action planning, where you have different action items for things like reviewing and revising documents and making sure that training is done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to take this opportunity to introduce this in this manner, because it's really not much more of a step beyond what was already done. So the beauty of the journey is you're taking incremental steps to ultimately achieve transformation. That's the goal, right? So it takes baby steps to get there, and we have a tremendous amount of experience helping our customers get there through their quality journeys and the wonderful, very powerful technology that we bring to the table. So that being said, that was what I proposed to discuss for the introduction. And I thought what we could do for the demo itself, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the demo itself, but I wanted to start with just an example of what it looks like when someone is assigned to something within our system. This is an example of an assignment email. This is part of standard workflow functionality, but in this case, it's assigning me to a quality event that's in the initial review step. It gives me the record number and the due date. You can even have a subject line or any other fields from the form itself. So in this case, the email is telling me what the issue is. And the main purpose of this email is not just to alert me, but to make it easy for me to get to that record. So I can click on this hyperlink and it'll bring me right to the record in the system. If you had single sign-on implemented, which we also support, it would bring you right to the record immediately because you're already authenticated in the system. But in this case, we don't have it implemented in our demo data set. So it's asking me to re-authenticate with my username and password. Now what it does is it brings me to the record in question. This is what a quality event record looks like, and this is the pre-configured process. So all of our forms have exactly the same look and feel. So for those of us that are on this call that haven't seen ETQ Reliance before, what I'm about to describe here will be applicable to every other process that we implement or we look at today. And that's part of the strategy, is to make it the system extremely intuitive and simple. So these are the workflow steps. This is the current step. It shows me who it's assigned to. Someone that initiated it routed it to this step, and they put in a comment over here. So that last comment is always going to be visible to whoever was assigned. So they know what the comment was, who made the comment, when it was made. So this is essentially communicating with me without manually doing anything. I don't have to send a separate email. I don't have to make a phone call. It's going to be tracked here. And it's also going to be a permanent part of this record. So as it goes through the workflow steps, you'll have a full comment history of who dealt with it, when it was dealt with, what the comment was, and whether it was moving forward or backward in the workflow. The nice thing about workflow is if, let's say I review it and I have a clarification question, I can always just send it back to the previous step, and then they can then send it forward, et cetera, in the process. I'm not going to go into this record in a lot of detail, but I will point out that this record came from a nonconformance report, which I have a link to right here. So that's part of the connectivity capability. Someone at some point in the nonconformance process clicked a button that said create a new quality event. It automatically launched this new record. It inherited certain information from the source form, such as the subject and description, the containment that was done, any information about the customer, product, or suppliers related to this that was already known. As part of the initial review of this record, I can determine if we want to track and trend it. So this is really one of the most powerful aspects of this. So part of the process is, once you identify the problem, you can even do a risk assessment as part of your review. So there's a separate risk utility application that we can use here. Once that's done, you can then, as part of the review, determine that, you know what, we don't need to go any further. We don't need to do a full corrective action. We really want to just close this up, and we're not going to spend the time and resources it takes to do a full corrective action. So based on the fact that we did a short-term containment action, we investigated the issue, we did a risk assessment, maybe it's a low risk, for example, and I want to bring your attention to the workflow, because if I click yes right here, it's going to trigger a change, which now is essentially implementing a business rule that would allow me to route it to the final approval step and then finally to the completed step of the workflow. It's also going to force me to justify why I am not going any further. This is an example of a required field. I can't route it forward until I populate required fields. So part of the power of the platform is the configurable workflow. It's probably one of the main differentiators with our system, and the ability to have business rules that can drive your processes. So you can have as many business rules that you want baked in into the workflow, or as much automation as you want to baked in. We do have some pre-configured automation, but the sky's the limit as far as what could be configured in the platform. So what would happen is this record would then go on to an investigation planning step where you can define different investigation actions that you want to delegate to other people. It would get approved and then move to an investigation step. For the sake of time, I'm just going to quickly jump to an existing record that's in the final, in the active investigation step. So this is what a typical application looks like in our system. These are called views. So views let me slice and dice information in different ways. But this button up here allowed me to get right to this app, right from the record that was in that app. So it's another ease of use capability. I can search any number of columns in the view to make it very easy to find information that I'm looking for. So I'm going to pull up this record that's in the active investigation step right here. You can see that it looks just like the other one, but it's moved on. The reason I wanted to point it out is just because we now have the access to the investigation plan. So these were multiple actions that were done. You can propose, I assign them to myself for demo purposes, but the idea here is that you can propose an action plan where you might have different people that have to be participating in the investigation. And once the plan gets approved and moves to this active investigation step, it triggers child actions and assigns them to individuals. You can also now do the root cause analysis right in the quality event record. So instead of waiting for the corrective action, you can still use that to determine it's another step, another stopgap measure to determine if you really need to do a corrective action or not related to this particular record. And if you do, then you can determine whether a corrective action is required or not. So if I say yes right here, this changes the form, it gives me an action button. This is going to launch right into the corrective action. It jumps right to this step of the workflow, so I don't have to redo things already. It pulls in the root cause information from the source record, and this allows you to define the action plan. So in very similar to the functionality of the investigation plan, it lets you pre-propose a plan which needs approval before you implement it. That's very much how the corrective action is set up. So it lets you get it approved and then implemented, and then allows you to literally, which the system would do automatically, trigger child action items using standard workflow functionality to assign them. So if I come back over here, you can see that I have my own homepage where I have a list of assignments, I have corrective actions, I have things. So the idea here is you got the power of the workflow, which in concept is very simple, but what's so powerful is if you apply it to all the business processes, that can be automated. So that's the idea of the accelerate step of the process. And I think, Angela, we're good for now.
Thank you so much, Tom, for that, for the overview and the demonstration. Okay. I think that was quicker than the first one.
That was definitely better.
All right. Well, thanks again, Tom. Okay. So with ETQ, you're in good company. We serve hundreds of customers of all shapes and sizes across many industries. This slide gives you a sense of our range, so to speak, from discrete to food and bev, consumer, pharma, med device, and more. And we apply the learnings and best practices from across all of these industries to provide unique value, I'd say, to our customers. For example, Plenty. They are a vertical farming company whose executives came from the auto industry, and they aim to apply that automotive production model approach to their innovative food production process. So using ETQ Reliance, they were able to have full traceability from the seed tray to the grocery store shelf, streamlining food safety, compliance audits, and eliminating any, the waste and cost from any recalls. And Plenty's global quality manager, in fact, noted that they were able to deploy a supply chain management process and requiring these exacting performance requirements from their OEMs, just like they would in the automotive industry. So it's a demonstration of that kind of adaptability and flexibility of the cross-industry best practices that we've embedded in ETQ Reliance that help Plenty realize the vision that they had. So building on our theme today, I wanted to share how a couple of other ETQ customers have accelerated their quality journey. The first one is Varian. For more than 70 years, Varian has developed and delivered innovative cancer care technologies to help treat millions of patients each year. And Varian has been on their quality journey with ETQ for 17 years, since 2006. So it's been a long-standing relationship. And Varian accelerated achieving their quality objectives through building custom applications and setting up integrations to automate processes between quality assurance and other business systems. So they used to have a manual entry for complaints handling, but now that's automated with an integration to the Salesforce platform, where their customer support cases are then through the integration are transformed into customer complaint records in ETQ for that further complaint determination analysis. Varian uses several issue and defect tracking systems, and through those two-way integrations with ETQ, they can kind of better enforce that synchronization of common data and kind of eliminating kind of the double entry activity they had before, and they can centrally manage resolving those quality issues, funneling in from the different systems, kind of like Tom was demonstrating earlier. So Varian Requests is a custom application that they built, and for them it serves as an administrative support tool that connects business process owners with end users. So it automates user requests and granting access to the applications within ETQ Reliance. So it's kind of back to that contextual awareness and that security aspect that Tom was referring to earlier or describing earlier. And that's based on user roles. So it's integrated with their learning management system and their IT support ticket management tool, ServiceNow, so they can streamline those processes and seamlessly handle those training and support requests. And then Varian's QMS project manager noted that by integrating with these other enterprise applications and kind of embedding quality within that ecosystem, such as with the ServiceNow and the Salesforce integration, they're able to streamline so many business processes. They're saving time, they're saving administrative overhead, and reducing the risk of the human error of transposing data from one system to another in a manual fashion. So great success story there. We do have a webinar with Varian. If you want to hear the full story, you can simply go to etq.com and search Varian in the search box, and it'll take you right to that page where the webinar is, and invite you to take a look at that. Okay, and then the next customer, the second one is Cummins Meritor. So Cummins Meritor provides a range of components for commercial vehicle and industrial markets, like axles, brakes, suspensions, aftermarket parts, that type of thing. Cummins Meritor has been on their ETQ quality journey for over 5 years. They started with out of the box, and so we're back to that building the foundation. They started out of the box, and then along the way made some thoughtful choices about what to keep as far as out of the box, configuring that, or building custom applications. So they've kind of done the range. They have a total of 6 automated integrations right now between business systems and their data warehouse infrastructure. And that includes Windchill and Oracle, as you see here, for supplier and product profiles, synchronizing that data. One issue they faced is that Meritor is built on acquisitions, and so as over time they're combining these ERP instances, they found themselves with duplicate supplier entries. So to mitigate that, they introduced a SharePoint integration, and that helps them manage from a, I guess, a kind of a meta level of supplier parent IDs, which allows them to provide access to suppliers, secure access to the SCAR and PPAP applications, where suppliers can then see all of their records across all of their sites within the Meritor system. And finally, they have a data mart that combines with ERP data, the QMS data with ERP data, and feeds that into a QMS dashboard that displays a lot of their cost of poor quality metrics in a combined dashboard. So they've really gone full force on their accelerate phase. So those are just a couple of examples of customers, out in the real world, putting these integrations into play. So I think we've hit all of these takeaways from our presentation today. We've seen a lot. We've hopefully given you guys some great insights into how all this can work, and moving your way closer to closed loop quality and harmonizing those workflows, connecting workflows. The possibilities really are endless given the flexibility of our system. And standardizing that data capture is such a big deal, as data is becoming more and more an aspect of our working lives. And how do we deal with this data? And the cleaner you can capture it and store it, and the better you can make use of it. Cleaner data, the better. And then making the QMS central repository. We talked about that as well. So collecting quality issues from all kinds of sources and funneling those into your core quality processes and resolving issues in a very streamlined and efficient way. And hopefully there are more takeaways for you all out in the audience. So before we get into Q&A, just also wanted to mention it, no matter where you are in your journey, we're ready to help. So from calculating the ROI for your business case, to the project planning, to providing the level of onboarding support that you need. We are more than just the software, more than the QMS solution. Your success, it truly is our success, and part of that total experience is getting paired with a dedicated customer success manager who's going to guide you through your ETQ journey. We have a huge library of resources that we call ETQ Academy, and it's various types of educational content and certifications that are available on demand, allowing you to, like we've got here, learn when, where, and how you want. So those resources are available to you at any time, and as well as all of your users. Our professional services team is there to get you up and running super quick, or as quick as possible, and help you work through all of the planning and deployment projects. We have PMP certified project managers in-house ready to help, and as well as ongoing technical support anytime there are questions or issues, or you just need to, you have a question about something. Our technical support team is available 24/7 to address that. And we also have an online community where you can network peer-to-peer and get inputs from your fellow quality professionals. Okay. All right. One step closer to Q&A, just a quick mention to say the rest of our Quality Solutions Series webinars are out on the website. We've got the link there. We have a number of other topics that we've covered over the last few months. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the expand phase of the quality journey. So looking forward to that. And a quick plug, if you are in the Philadelphia, PA area, May 7th through 10th, ASQ is holding their World Conference on Quality, and we have a couple of ETQ representatives there providing a couple of sessions. So if you're in the area at that time, please consider dropping by and attending that event. We'd love to see you there. Okay, well, at this point, we are open to any questions or comments that you have. All right, so I think we've got one here, Tom. So you talked about, just reading here. So yeah, you talked about quality events. Why would, maybe just refresh on why we would want to implement quality events if you're already tracking things for, in nonconformances or customer complaints, audit findings, that type of thing? Why would we add that extra layer?
Sure. So as I mentioned, there are two reasons. One is that it's a consistent way to investigate and risk assess all issues that you're having. So it would be easy enough to simply launch an event from any of those sources that we discussed or any other source within the system. But for the purposes of this journey step, we discussed the three different sources, which is audit findings, nonconformances, and customer complaints. So it gives you a consistent way of dealing with that and tracking it. And it also gives you a way to easily report and analyze at a high level everything that's going on. So prior to the quality events application, the only way to track that would be through corrective action, because you can track and trend all corrective actions that were launched from any of those sources. But part of the argument is that you don't necessarily have to launch a corrective action from every event. So this allows you to, it's just another layer of consistency for investigation, analytics, and risk assessment for your process. And the other thing that I didn't mention in my demo is that if you have an issue that's identified, a nonconformity, somebody is not doing something correctly, maybe it's not a product nonconformance, maybe it's not a customer complaint, you can actually allow users to launch a quality event right in the application itself. So anything that's observed could be tracked and captured in the quality events application and go through the process for review for risk assessment if needed. Track and trend it. Do we want to just close it? It's no big deal, but thank you for recording it because it's great information. That's another great candidate for the mobility app as well. So you can configure that right on your mobility app, so everyone on their mobile phone would have it right available in their pocket. They can see something, they can record it very easily in just a couple of seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and then you're capturing much richer information for analytics and reporting and trend analysis.
Yeah, even safety incidents, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tom. Yeah, I think it's just kind of back to this idea of managing the data, managing the inflow of data, and having quality stand alone, but able to integrate with these other systems to provide that extra value and that additional visibility and the reporting, being able to roll up
Right.
reports based on the total picture.
Just a little spoiler alert, the concept of the safety incidents is actually going to be discussed in our next discussion, which is the
Yes, it is.
expand phase.
Yeah, I was tempted to jump ahead.
That's okay.
In the
The
journey
thing
here.
is, the thing is, when you talk about connectivity, it's hard to draw lines between the different things, and that's the beauty of the platform and the connectivity, because so many things are so interrelated with each other that it's hard to draw a fine line. But we want to make sure, and that's why we're conveying this story in this series. This is the second of 4 in the series, is that you have to walk before you run. So you have to start with the fundamentals first, which was the ignite step. That's the first one. And now we're talking about accelerate. We're putting the foot on the gas a little bit and getting a little bit more involved, integration, a couple of other sources of issues or events. We want to make it so it's, at least in your mind, it's manageable. It's not something that's a huge thing. I mean, of course, any of this when you're implementing a system and the change that takes place with that it is a big deal. But you can talk to some of our customers that have been with us for years, and they really have transformed their processes, and they see ETQ Reliance as one of their key systems, just as important as they do their ERP system, or several other mission critical systems. So we're excited to be here to help you with that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Great. Thank you so much, Tom. And thank you all for attending today. Really appreciate you being here. And we look forward to seeing you in the next session.
Thank you.